Hey, okay, so I just helped somebody get ZBrush and I want to help them get started. Uh, when you first open ZBrush, this little thing is going to pop up. It's kind of like a list of models. Um, and to make that go away, you can press this button over here, this lightbox button. And the first page of it is going to be a couple models that you can check out. This fat guy, not really very helpful, but it's still pretty interesting to look at. Um, so anyway, press the light box, make that go away, and when you first start, you're gonna it's gonna be very confusing. Things are gonna be dropping on the screen. You're not gonna know what to do. Um, you're gonna be drawing uh, squares on the screen, and then basically what happens is you're gonna need to select something up here. Okay, so this is where you load in everything, and you can select a z-sphere. That's one way to get started. I wouldn't really recommend that for you right now, but um, basically what you should do, okay, so if something like this happens over here where I press T to go into, I press T to activate sculpting mode, right? And then the last thing that I do is stamped down onto the canvas over here. And so, like, both of these things are stamped down onto the canvas. If I try to draw a new thing right now and then press T, and then I want to sculpt this new thing over here, both of these things are both stamped down onto the canvas, and you're like, oh, why is this happening? It's so terrible. But here's the solution. You go up here to the layer tab, and then you press clear, and then it goes away, and then you're just focused working on this one model. So if you ever press T and something's stamped down and then you go to something else, like this, here's your new model, and you need to get rid of this other thing, just go to layer, clear. Okay, so now that solves that issue. And so what you want to do is you want to start sculpting, and you want to start practicing with the different brushes. So the best way to do that is, there's two ways to go about doing that. I just clicked Lightbox, and then I clicked this little sphere right here. It says Default Sphere. And then it asks, do I want to save? I say no. Now it brings me to this. And it has a grid set up, and it has symmetry set up automatically, so that if I try to use a brush, symmetry is activated automatically. And if I want to take that symmetry away, I can simply just press the X key. Then that goes away. See, symmetry is no longer active. But when you start sculpting, you're going to want to use symmetry, because you're going to want to try to, make a head of something interesting. Basically, my advice is to think about your favorite kind of video game, and that's the type of thing that you want to practice. So if your favorite type of video game is like dragons and fantasy, then just like make a sphere and start trying to sculpt a dragon head for practice, because in the beginning it's going to look like shit no matter what, but the more you learn the tools, the better you're going to get at whatever you're practicing. and you want to be practicing something that you really love so that you can get into it, you know? Basically, if it's for in the beginning and learning, it's all about momentum, because if you lose momentum, then you're just gonna give up and not want to do this anymore. It's not going to be fun for you. So you want to choose something that you love and try to get as much momentum as you can. So that, of course, means, you know, if it's a dragon head, you're going to want to get as much reference of a dragon head as you can. If it's a robot, you know, whatever. So anyway, there's all these tools that pop up over here, okay? And then there's going to be materials over here if you press this button. I have way more materials than you're going to have because I've imported a bunch of custom materials. You're going to have the same amount of brushes that I have because we have the same version of Zbrush. You're not going to need to worry about, like, you can mess with this tab. This is the alpha tab. Okay, so basically, if you change the material with this button right here, then it's going to change the look of your object. And you're just going to want to choose one of the most basic materials so that you can clearly read what you're doing. And then the brushes, I could tell you, you know, obviously you could try all the brushes, and that will take a lot of time, or you could watch other people's tutorials, see what kind of things that they're doing, or I could just tell you right here in the video. Why not? Okay, so basically the most important brushes in my opinion are the clay brush, and that does this. It just kind of sculpt, and then if I press the Alt button while I am sculpting, then it pushes inwards. So basically, if I sculpt without the Alt button, then it's like making this little clay effect, and then if I press Alt, then it pushes inwards. Okay, so and then if I press Shift, then it smooths out the shit. Alright, so clay brush, very important. Clay buildup brush. If you're gonna use one of the clay brushes, you can experiment with the 3 different clay brushes. There's the clay brush, clay buildup, and the normal clay tubes. And you know, you can choose whichever one you like the best. It doesn't matter as long as you're just using one of them, because I think it's pretty important to get used to using that one. And then the standard brush is just the normal sculpting. Nothing too special, but I think it's pretty important. Should be like one of the main brushes that you practice. The move brush is probably the most important brush. It allows you to just like move everything around, shift everything, make insane big moves. And you can see my mouse, so if I go over here, there's this focal shift and draw size. And you might notice that I'm moving that around to make my brush size bigger and smaller, and that controls the influence of the brush that I'm using. So whatever brush I choose, if it's the clay brush, then this is going to be a big, broad brush, or pushing in broad, or if it's small, you can make details or whatever. Okay, so we got the clay brushes, the move brush, the standard brush. Okay, so now we want to go over the pinch brush. by the way, this happens to me all the time. When I open up the brush tab, there's so many brushes that you want to find the brush that you're looking for very fast. So you can say just the letter P, and then it shows you just the brushes that start with the letter P. So then you can find the pinch brush very fast. And after you use a brush, after you select a brush, it's gonna be saved at the top for this quick pick selection. So you will basically start up ZBrush, make a sphere, start with the lightbox sphere, and then you're gonna use your 6 different brushes that you're practicing with. And so, okay, I'll show you what pinch does. It's basically like if you have a flat surface like right here, you can use the pinch brush by going back and forth like this. And also, sorry for going all over the place, but there's just so many things to go over that I'm just going to be all over the place. I didn't script this at all. So right here is the Z intensity, and that is going to control basically the pressure or the strength of the brush that you're using, and that works with every brush. And so right now I'm using the pinch brush, and that is literally just pinching a line, like it's pinching points together to make a hard edge. And like if I'm modeling Iron Man helmet, let's say, there's lots of curved surfaces with hard edges. So all the curved surfaces are weird shapes that follow the muscles, and then they have the hard edges, which makes the detail. And if you're modeling that stuff and it looks bad, and you're trying to make those shapes and you can't do it, maybe it's because it's too bumpy. It doesn't look like metal yet. The reason that the Iron Man helmets and stuff look like metal and they look good is because of those shapes. They look so perfect. And if you, they look like if you polish them, they'll be shiny metal, because they're those curved surfaces with sharp edges, and they don't have imperfections. They're not like this, like what I'm sculpting right now. It looks like a ball of shit, totally imperfect. But then you see this line right here, and it looks kind of like nice and crisp. So that's what the pinch brush does. Basically, you're gonna have a bunch of weird curved surfaces in the beginning and bumps, and you're gonna want to figure out how to make that into something. In the beginning, you're not gonna be able to make it into something at all, because you're gonna be like, oh fuck, I need to practice all these different brushes and learn how to make details and stuff like that. And once you learn how to make details, then you're like, oh wow, I have all these details. How to make it look into something good? And my advice is to try to make an Iron Man helmet or something like that, or a dragon helmet, whatever. I'm still going through the process of trying to get better. I still think that I am a shitty artist. I'm not confident enough to seriously apply to any studios or anything. But I feel like I'm getting better. So I'm gonna say some more things. Here at the top, there's this timeline thing, and you can just see all the stuff that you did by just going blah 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 blah. Wow, that's cool. Just see. In this case, you can see how shitty you are. But it looks cool still. And then over here on the right is basically where all the selection, so much stuff is over here. So basically over here in the tools stuff, you can select between the sphere that you selected or Z sphere or whatever. And then in the geometry, and then in Subtool tab, you can add more stuff. So if you have your central tool, then you can add another subtool in the Subtool tab, like that. So now you have two objects. And then if you want to get rid of this grid that's under the model, there's this floor button right here. So now I'm going to press delete to get rid of that sphere. So obviously there's a bunch of stuff in the Subtool tab. Like there's just like, you know, every button you click will open up to a bunch of other buttons. And yeah, I know what every single button does pretty much, but that doesn't mean I'm like a master sculptor. I could learn every single tool in this program, which I've learned, I'd say the majority of stuff, but that really doesn't mean anything. It just means that I'm a little bit technical. If I can't use those details to create something impressive for a portfolio, then I'm never going to be able to get a job, and that's just pretty much the bottom line. So anyway, let me go to this geometry tab right here, and that is very important. You can press this polyframe button right here to see the topology. And if I make more videos, you're going to hear me talking about topology a lot. It's very important. It's basically just like the flow of surface. When you put on topology, you're going to see all these squares. Yeah. Anyway, you see this geometry tab right here, and it says lower res, delete lower, divide, smooth. You can, for now, you can keep that little button on. And right now, let's say I want to make this more detailed, right? I'm going to press divide, and then it's going to go to subdivision level 4. And right here I can see it has like, you know, almost 100,000 points, which is not that much. So like if I divide it to level 5 again, then it's going to be at 400,000 polygons. So now it's going to be like a smooth surface, so that I can really see the effects of all these like weird changes that I'm making. So let's see. I probably won't be able to salvage this as an actual design. That's not anything serious. I just wanted to show the effects of some brushes. So I'm right now just using the pinch brush and smooth. So I'm just smoothing and pinching and smoothing and pinching. I made this line right here and then smoothed all around it. Make that line and then smooth all around it with the shift. Now I'm making this other line, smoothing all around it. Making another line right here and then smoothing around it. And I can go on the subdivision little slider right here, go to level 1 and see the topology. Okay, very simple. I'll go back up to the top, level 5, divide it up to be high resolution so that I can practice details. An eye would be right here. Carve in with the standard brush, and then you can use the pinch brush to make sharp eyelids, like so. And then you got the upper eyelid, the lower eyelid, and then the angry eyebrow, because, you know, of course every alien is going to be angry. I'm going to show you another brush right now. Press D, and then it comes up. It's called Damn Standard, and that's what we use to carve in details. Okay, so you're going to basically want a smaller brush size for that, and it's pretty important. Right now, when I carve in details with it, it's a decent resolution for carving the details. Not very optimal. So I have a decent computer, so I can actually stream with like 10 million polygons on the screen in Zbrush. which is very nice. I like it a lot. So you can see that I'm carving in details, nothing impressive. I can make the brush smaller, and I can divide it up. I went to 6, so right now it's at 1.5 million. Carving details in, carving details in, carving details in. I'm not gonna, I don't know if I'm gonna edit the sound of this, so sorry if there's any like slurping noises or something. Alright, so another thing that I want to show is if I go on the Deformation tab, there's a bunch of stuff. The first slider that you see is it just says polish, and if I put it the slider starts at 0, and if I just slide it up to like 20 and then let go, then there's a little loading at the top, and then it just kind of smooths out everything. So you can see what that does if I undo. Like right now there's like jagged surfaces everywhere, like see all that jagged stuff, I don't know. And then I do the polish, and then it kind of smooths out pretty nicely with keeping all the detail, pretty much all those major cuts that I made. Okay, so far I've gone over the clay, damn standard, move, pinch, standard. The last brush that I'm going to go over for this video is another F. It's flatten. Okay, it's not another F because this is the first F. Flatten brush. The more I use this, the more I realize how amazing it is. It's just because I'm trying to do hard surface right now. I'm trying to learn how to take anatomy already sculpted and make armor. So the flatten brush and the pinch brush and the damn standard brush are like the main guys that I'm going to these days, and just try to get as good as I can with them. Flatten is amazing. It just does what you'd think. It's just flattening. You're kind of carving. But yeah, because when you're making the hard surface with the hard edges and the curves, it's going to be bumpy all over the place all the time, very annoying. And the flatten brush, you just go all over the place, back and forth with the flatten brush, just getting those bumps out. Very, very useful. So that's pretty much it. I think I said everything that I want to say for this like intro thingy. I wasn't expecting to get anything interesting looking. Okay, here's one last thing that I can do. I can go into the Subtools button, right, and then say append, and then right here in this little drag down, I can say append 3D sphere, right? And then I select the sphere in this Subtools, and then I can go to up here, I can go to scale, right? And then I'm gonna select from here to here to make like this little transpose line, and then I'm gonna transpose it to make it smaller, and then I'm gonna go up here to the move tool, and then I'm gonna take this little transpose button from the middle of the transpose line that I did to shift it over here. So now I have this little ball that I use the scale to make smaller and the move to move over here. And so now I can go down here in this menu up here, Z plugin, and I can say Subtool Master, and over here should be this little button, mirror, And selecting that, you will get a bunch of options, and then you're just going to want to match these you're going to want to say the top answer for the questions that they ask. Merge into one subtool, yes. Please choose mirror axis X. Top option, press OK. Then it makes these two spheres into one subtool. So now I have this beautiful masterpiece right here. I'm sculpting, and then another subtool is these eyes. And it's not going to do a default symmetry. So by pressing X, it turns on symmetry, and now I can select this move up here, make another transpose line that's going to use symmetry, so you can see that there's a transpose line on either side. So I make a transpose line by just selecting up here and then dragging down, and then this middle drag button, I can select where I want this little ball to be, and I'm going to just drag it into place. And I don't know if you've guessed what I'm doing right now, but I'm going to select this scale button up here, scale it down a little bit. Now back to the move it back into place. Okay, so now we have something. Now I can select back to draw, and that allows me to sculpt again. And now I'm going to go back to the mesh for sculpting, and basically just in 2 seconds flat sculpt what I had into the most awesome alien eye ever sculpted ever. I should be winning Oscars for this. I should be getting paid $10,000 an hour from Riot for that alien eye right there. See that shit? So anyway, there's the little alien eye in place. Here's your whatever sample for the main brushes that I use. Clay, damn standard, flatten, move, pinch, standard. Once you're comfortable with that stuff, start looking up reference. Start trying to do whatever you can do. If you're obsessed with sculpting Arnold Schwarzenegger's face, that's what you should do. That's your favorite actor in the world, and all you want is like a big, naked, muscular Arnold Schwarzenegger. Go for that, man. There's plenty of pictures of him on the internet without his shirt on, you know. Personally, I want to get good at making armor. I want to get good at making the Iron Man suits and stormtroopers and all that stuff. Eventually, I want to be able to sculpt full robots that can be animated and spaceships that can transform and all that stuff, because that's just what inspires me. Anyway, I'm going to end it now. Hope you learned something. Hope the video comes out. Alright, see ya.